Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County for Wednesday, November 4th, 2020. I am the host, the ever so lovely Mr. Nighthawk, and the studio engineer is Richie Cunningham. Hey, Richie. And on the panel to my immediate left is Super Dave Handy, and to my immediate right, Mr. Duke Forrest. And I think I'm going to start baseball. I will tell you guys something. When I'm prepping for the show, and I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I'm thinking to myself, holy cow, there's not a lot of sports going on. There's no hockey. There's no basketball. Basketball should have started this week. We should have been into the fourth week of NHL hockey. So we're stuck with football, and we have a little bit of baseball news. So, David, I'm going to ask you the first question. The New York Mets, new owner Steve Cohen did get approved. He's worth $14 billion, and you mentioned last week he did have to pay a fine of $1.3 billion that he simply pulled out his checkbook, wrote a check for $1.3 billion. Who was it to, David?
It was the Securities and Exchange Commission.
So, Steve Cohen, the new owner of the New York Mets, is worth more than the top other three owners combined in Major League Baseball. So I'm begging the question. The Mets have been hapless for a number of years. What is to stop Cohen to sign every free agent when he got $14 billion, David? Do you think he wrestles with himself at night in bed worrying about the luxury tax?
No.
I'm hearing feedback, Richie. I don't know if he's still there.
Yeah,
if you could shut the door or something. As much as I like to listen to myself, the feedback kills me. Thanks, Rich. Oh, so David,
I read somewhere he's willing to lose $250 million a year.
Really?
Okay.
For the first 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And they're going to upgrade all of the front offices, and the Mets have been running on a shoestring because the Wilpons got stuck in
Bernie
Madoff's mess.
Yeah.
And so they've been short of money, and that's one thing they won't be short of anymore. They're going to be in the deep end of the pool.
No, it's his goal not to be the little brother in New York anymore. He wants the Yankees to be the small kid in town.
Good luck.
Yeah. But, if you got $14 billion, he looks, I don't know his age, around 55.
I think he's about 60.
He's about 60, okay.
64, as a matter of fact.
Okay. He grew up in New York, loves baseball, has been a lifelong
Mets fan.
And again, when you got $14 billion, you're 64 years old.
He almost bought the Dodgers, too, by the way.
Okay. What a great hobby it is to own a major league team. And he paid $2.2 billion for the Mets, which was grossly overpaid. But again, he didn't care.
No. And I'm sure he's making money even as we speak. I'm sure it's not just a big pile just sitting there.
Yeah.
So he's going to change the landscape, that's for sure.
Now, the word on the street is, with free agency coming up, is, where's my notes? Expect little action and little money this year.
There's a lot of talk that a lot of teams are going to be downsizing. Teams like Cleveland and the usual suspects, but a lot of teams lost. Of course, nobody lost more money last year than the Yankees. And I read a thing today where they were throwing around some trades, to trade Stanton off, all
right, let me stop you there. You trade Stanton off, he gets what, around $30 million a year?
Yeah.
Okay. How much of that 30 per year will the Yankees eat?
Well, it depends on who. Of course, this is all subjective.
Right.
If they traded him to San Diego, maybe they would take back Will Myers. And
Will Myers has a bad contract.
Right.
He gets around 20 a year.
But all of these contracts will be all done by 2023.
Okay.
And then the other guy they were thinking about said they could trade him to the Cubs for Yu Darvish. Another bad contract that the Cubs have.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose if you think about it and you're creative, you can find a way to get rid of Stanton. But he's got a complete no trade, so it'd have to be either LA or some really good team. And Stanton, when he does play, is really good. The problem is keeping him on the field. He hasn't played a lot. But the Yankees, I think, are due for a makeover. They're too right-handed. They don't have enough left-handed hitters. Their defense isn't that great.
And you think with their ballpark, the last thing they want is not enough left-handed hitters.
They've really got no starting pitcher signed after Cole who have any experience. There's a lot of guys out there. There's a pile of teams that aren't going to be paying big money for anybody. So what they were saying, like with the Mets, is the Mets might be able to make a few trades, get a guy like Lindor from Cleveland on a Mookie Betts kind of deal, because Lindor is due for a big raise.
Okay.
And when he goes, Cleveland's not going to get anything for him, and they can't keep him.
Yeah.
So Cleveland has to trade him now.
So DJ LeMahieu, with a paltry, he only earned $12 million.
DJ LeMahieu.
I'm not sure how he feeds his family, but the most grossly underpaid player in Major League Baseball this year. He's in the top 3 finalists for the MVP in the American League. The Yankees did qualify him for $18.9 million. Speculation is they have the right to reject it by next Wednesday, the 11th, and they expect LeMahieu to reject it. Now, my thought process is perfect spot for him, and I'm guessing the Yankees are going to ante up to keep him.
I can't see them.
But I can't think of
Why
a
would
better
they
team
ever let that guy go?
than the Boston Red Sox. Red Sox literally have no second baseman.
But again, they're trying to get away from spending a gazillion dollars. They're going to spend, what, 25?
Yeah.
What's it going to take to sign him? $25 million a year?
I would say 3 for 50.
Well, they had 3 for 65.
Really? Okay.
I don't think the Red Sox are looking to spend big
what
bucks.
the salaries are going to be.
Well, that's exactly my
Can I give you
question.
that?
We
Can I
have
give
a
you the
phone call?
Plus, if they don't have fans next year.
Exactly. Good evening. You're the first caller tonight on the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County. Hello.
I saw your little thing on the screen here, just get your mind off the election and get caught up on some sports. So that's what I'll do.
Thank you, Leonard. No politics.
I think watching the end of this national election is like watching the end of a Giants game. It's Danny Dimes. Danny Dimes is now Danny Pinhead to me. I think his days in New York are probably numbered. I think we'll have a high enough draft. We can find a pretty mobile quarterback.
Chief Leonard, I thought he had a pretty good end of the regular game drive.
Oh my God, he was just. I mean,
Were you not watching the last minute?
That was his worst game as a pro, I thought.
What were we watching? I'm into the Giants more than my Patriots now. The last drive, they're down. He completes 2 fourth down passes to keep the drive going. You don't give him some credit for that. Then a perfect TD pass.
He turns the ball over. He does not learn. I mean, I watched him religiously. I think Gettleman will be gone, because this won't happen unless you fire Gettleman, because this is Gettleman's boy.
I mean,
if they end up with a 2 or 3 draft pick, I think they'll go for a quarterback.
Could be. I mean,
I don't know what the Nighthawk thinks, but
he absolutely screwed up. But at times he looks, yeah.
Well, he's done that to us for 2 years.
Great, 2 years. How many? They just played about one of the best team. They played dead even. In fact, they probably played a better game than the Bucks. You give the guy no credit. You give him no credit.
The guy missed so many open receivers. He did the same thing at Philadelphia. He had 2 guys wide open over the top.
Well, Leonard, the wind was blowing 50 miles an hour.
They lost to the Bucks by 2 points in a dead even game.
Yeah. Well, do you remember a couple days? Do you remember, Monday, how windy it was? It was windy there too.
They were kicking field goals. I didn't see any.
Well, did you see
much from
They did. That's why the Giants didn't even have a guy catching a punt when.
I'm not sure I saw Tom Brady, the great Tom Brady, play the greatest game I've ever seen.
The Meadowlands are a tough place to play, even without the wind. But when you got 30 mile
Well,
an hour,
I'm just wondering what the Nighthawk thinks. If they fire Gettleman and get New England's player personnel director for a new GM, do you think they'll go after quarterback? If they have a high pick?
Let me start by saying I did see a headline, New York Giants are improving, except Daniel Jones. Now, let me say this about Daniel Jones. He had a good game. He had a bad game. You're absolutely right. All the receivers downfield, he might have had 4 or 5 opportunities to go downfield wide open. They missed. And the last play of the game to Dion Lewis, he was late in delivering the ball, and he didn't put it far enough out for Lewis
not a good pass.
to catch it. That's on him. Now, keep in mind, quarterbacks, it's not an exact science. Dwayne Haskins, who was picked the next quarterback after Daniel Jones, could not give him away at last week's trade deadline. His worth right now might be a 6th-round pick. You've got to be patient. It's only his 2nd year. I have seen enough good things on Daniel Jones. He has made some boneheaded plays, and I've seen a mock draft, Leonard, where the Giants will be taking Justin Fields, quarterback from Ohio State. It's only his 2nd year. Be patient. Now, you say a mobile quarterback. I think Jones is extremely mobile. He currently leads the Giants in rushing.
And I'd like to see him running more.
With 308 yards. I think he's a smart kid. He does make some bonehead plays, but they've got to clean that up this year. We're not going to make it to the playoffs. Be patient with him. Next year, the Nighthawk will be all over his case if he does not play well. But
if he doesn't clean it up here in the second half, you're still on his bandwagon?
What about the last drive? Yeah, he throws a lousy pass that would have tied the game. What about the fact that they got a touchdown?
I'm talking about his entire body of work, Richard.
Well, I know, but I'm just hearing criticism.
Leonard, I would say that you're right in the results have been bad, but you're wrong in that it's not always his fault. The offensive line is just finally
starting to improve.
Yep. They're just finally starting to run. The problem is the timer in his head that quarterbacks have has been screwed up by being under pressure for the first year and a half and running for his life on every pass. He hasn't got that figured out.
Although he did seem to especially early in the game, he did seem to be doing better getting rid of it earlier. They got to get him more on a rhythm.
They get him on a rhythm. The guy can throw, and he's really fast. So, and I don't think they're getting rid of Gettleman. I think with this coach and what you've seen, the Giants actually, I think they are light years better than they were last year.
Leonard, I'll go on.
They're the best 1-17 team in football. I'll give you that.
Leonard, I was just going to say, I'll go on record. They may be the best 1-7 team in the history of NFL football. Now, keep in mind, the New York Giants in the last 3 weeks have lost games by a total of 6 points.
Really? 3 games.
They've lost 5 games on the last play of the game.
Yeah. And again,
I understand that.
Len, and I'm not going to disagree with anything you said because everything you said is true and accurate. But again, I'm going to agree with I just said. You have to be patient. This is a learning experience. It's like you taking LJ out to play golf, okay, and he's never played before. You as his dad is going to teach him. You're going to be patient with him. And this is what this is. Keep in mind, 2nd-year quarterback, no preseason, no training camp. Next year, Len, I'll join you in the stands by blasting Jones. Hopefully we'll see some improvement. Now, I never expected to be in the playoffs this year, and like what David said, we're seeing improvement. The O-line is starting to come together. The defense, without a right cornerback, is actually playing well. Blake Martinez, as advertised, is a tackling machine. Leonard Williams, I'm not sure if we have the money to re-sign him, but he's been probably our best defensive player this year. I'm optimistic about the future. Now, we do play the former Redskins this week, and we're favored by 3 in that game. But our biggest need, we still need to get another offensive lineman, and my eyes are on Penny Sewell from Oregon. And our second pick will have to be a cornerback. We've got to have somebody opposite of James Bradbury.
Well,
and as we've discussed for weeks, DeAndre Baker, we traded up for him in the first round. That was our corner for the next 10 years.
Do we have any? We must have some money to sign some free agents because they've gotten rid of just about every expensive player they had.
We were about, I can't remember, 5 to 8 million left in the cap this year.
So they'll have some money. Of course, who knows what the cap will be next year either because no fans at football.
Oh, they're losing billions, the NFL this year, without fans. Keep in mind, David, when you go to an NFL game, and I would have been at the game Monday night. That was my yearly game. Now, when I sit with my friend, we're right 20 rows up, right in the middle of the goalpost. That ticket, okay, not the greatest ticket in the world. It's great when they come down at you, but when they're at the other end of the field, they're distant. But that ticket alone, David, is $150.
I just saw a reference in a baseball story that revenue, more than I would have thought, 40% is in-game attendance, parking, concessions. That's probably a little more than I would have thought.
Yeah.
Hey, when you're getting $12 a beer,
Yeah.
you got a little margin.
Baseball lost a ton of money. Baseball lost a ton of money.
But Leonard, in the big picture, are you encouraged for 2021?
Yes, and I'll be more encouraged if we jettison Gettleman. I think he's made some pretty dumb mistakes, and I just think that if that guy from New England, I can't think of his name, their player personnel guy.
Yeah,
If they'd hook him up, which I think that might be the only way they would do it. Because if you get him to do GM, you usually you're some say in your coach. But if they brought this guy in from the Patriots, he knows Judge. They get along well. It might be a perfect marriage.
Yeah, I've checked with my NFL connections. The gentleman you're speaking of is Nick Caserio from the Patriots. He's like director of player personnel. He's the de facto general manager. Bill Belichick has a ton of power there, but this Casio is 45 years old, started it in the Patriots at age 25. And you're talking about a marriage in heaven, getting Casio over to the Giants with a guy he knows extremely well.
But given the dearth of talent on my poor Patriots, I'm not sure exactly why you'd be so excited about this guy. Patriots are a pretty sad-looking, talentless team.
And I will say this for the Patriots, in the same vein as the Giants.
Look better to me than the Patriots.
Same as the Giants. The Patriots and the Giants both have drafted horribly in the last half dozen years. That's why the Patriots it's caught up with them.
Terrible drafts, yeah.
Yep.
Now, Richard, I can't let this pass because you have talked to me a number of times over the last several years saying, well, I thought you were a Giants fan when I complained about it. Now, my God, you guys have won so many Super Bowls here in the last 10 years. They're having one bad year, and you're all over them.
No,
that's what you've accused me of for years.
Yeah, no, I'm not bailing out, but you should. You think I'm all over him? Punch up Felger and Maz. Belichick is taking an amazing beating there on him because not just a couple. Brady, I think the Brady-Belichick thing, Brady's sure looking better every day in that equation. Brady seemed to just cover up for them for a lot of years. As Nighthawk said, they've had not just a couple, they've had several lousy draft years and not bringing in anybody. I mean, Brady leaves, and the cupboard all of a sudden is bare. And a lot of people thinking it shouldn't have gone from kind of one extreme to the other.
Well, there are these salary cap situations, and Chicago Blackhawks in hockey are one of the best examples.
Yep.
They won 3 Stanley Cups in 6 years, and now they've hit a dry spell. It's all because of the cap.
Well,
Patriots have been hardly spending a ton of money on a lot of players.
The problem,
they've been lowballing Brady for his whole career in New England.
Right, but the Patriots have been right at the cap. They don't have any money.
Right.
I
don't know where the money is because they're not paying anybody.
Don't worry about the Patriots. They'll get back around.
Yeah. And again.
Oh, yeah, I don't cry for me, Argentina.
Yeah. Patriots aren't.
No, but I'm just saying.
Had a great run.
I'm just saying There's fair criticism of Belichick, especially with some lousy drafting for a number of years. I'm just saying, some of this criticism is fair.
Now, I'm not an apologist for the Patriots.
Greatest coach of all time.
Well, I'm not sure he's looking like that right now. And again, we're back to Brady.
We don't always
Greatest coach of all time, maybe because he had probably inarguably the greatest quarterback of all time.
Let me say this. He may be the greatest coach of all time, but he's not a very good general manager.
That's probably a good comment.
Oh, I think he's a pretty good general manager.
Not to be an apologist for the Patriots, but you got to keep in mind they had 6 or 7 guys opt out with some really good players with the COVID this year. They just simply decided, I don't want to play this year. I told Duke back this summer.
You wonder if Brady was a factor with that.
But these are like Marcus Cannon, Hightower, I think was another.
Hightower was probably the biggest guy.
Right. They had some really good players that decided not to come back.
Patrick Chung. Oh, yeah. No, they had some good players.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying, I don't mean to be going overboard here, and again, Malger and those guys blow my mind. They rip him for hours and hours, but
9 Super Bowls in about the last 15 years don't mean anything.
I'm still saying, some of the criticism today is not unfair.
I think the problem has been with Cam Newton, and Cam Newton was playing pretty good till he came down with COVID. He hasn't been the same player.
The end of the Patriots game is kind of like the end of the Giants game there.
I don't know if you guys watch that Patriot game. I did, just because, as I said earlier, there's no other sports. So I've been watching a lot of football.
Listened to some of
that was like, I turned the clock back 50 years. That looked like 1970 football. Run by both teams. I bet there was over 300 rushing yards, and it was just good old-fashioned football. Yeah. And I'll say this about Newton. There was a reason why he was still available on June 28th.
Looks like it.
And it'll get to a point where they're mathematically out. Who is Jarrett Stidham?
I feel bad about it. I've talked about this before. I feel bad how the Boston media, everybody's saying, "Oh, this guy's worth." Gee, don't give him more than like one game. How about give this guy a few games?
Yeah,
why are they beating him up so much?
You can't judge Stidham coming in the fourth quarter mop-up time.
Give him a chance.
He's got to get first team reps and maybe get 4 to 6 games.
But of course, Belichick was. Here's just one more criticism of Belichick. The call after the Patriots crawl back into that game, tying it 14-14, they try an onside kick.
That was stupid.
My memory's not great. That might be the stupidest, most unbelievable football decision I've ever seen. They've tied the game, and they give those guys 30 yards. They take over at the Patriots 45. What are the chances for an onside kick?
Well,
did I hear 6%? And that sounds high.
That sounds high. I think
3 out of 30.
That's 10%.
I really love.
Tell me, where did that call come? Isn't that I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
Let me say this about onside kicks. Because of safety. Remember the old days? I'm talking 3 years ago. You could take the whole left side, bring them to the right side. So you've got 10 guys on the right side. Well, you can't stack a line like that anymore. And I think there might have been 1, possibly 2 successful onside kicks.
What a decision. I'm listening to the radio folks, including Scott Zolak, who's, you could call him a Belichick. Oh, they went crazy. And Bob Sosey.
You know why? It would have been great if it worked.
If it worked, and the chance of it working are so negligible.
I think what they did was they were probably playing the odds that it was such a stupid play that nobody would think they would actually do.
Well, anyway, Buffalo gets the ball. The Patriots 45 goes in for a touchdown. I couldn't believe the play.
The Patriots saved them.
Well, I don't want to keep you. I'll get out of here. The Giants, if they say win 2 more games, okay, they win 3 wins. Scale of 1 to 10. 1, Gettleman stays. 10, he's fired. Where would you rank the chances of Gettleman sticking around?
I've got him at 50%, Len, be honest with you.
David?
I don't see the Giants firing him. I give him 80% chance he stays.
And you've been watching the Giants a lot now, Richard. You must have a feeling.
No, I have been watching them more. No, I have no informed feeling about Gettleman.
I feel like they've improved.
But they're looking like
a
better. They're looking like a better team to me.
They're improving. I think it's just he hasn't learned, and I would think the kid is smart enough, and I'm wondering if there's any spillover from his night out with the boys the night after they lost to the Eagles. There was some internal team discipline there, apparently. They must have been fined. And I don't know if that somehow, hurt not his ego, but his confidence a little bit. I've never seen the kid look so easy. He was almost crying at the end of the game on the bench. I've never seen him look so low.
Well, I mean, that play was his fault, and I will fault him big time on that. He just simply did not release the ball
And the
in
two
time.
interceptions were awful.
And for the record, and I'll be fair here, for the record, two terrible picks, and it could have been a couple more.
Yeah.
But again, let's not also forget, at times the guy looked unbelievable. I mean, that last drive.
Yeah.
How many
But
folks
you need
pulled that off?
Consistency with the quarterback. You need consistency.
Absolutely.
And how many
Right.
quarterbacks are wicked consistent?
Yeah,
Probably
right.
not too many.
Yeah. And getting in quarterbacks in general, you probably can count on maybe all your 10 fingers out of 30 or 32 teams. There's probably 10 really good quarterbacks in football.
That sounds about right.
You look at Matt Stafford, a lifelong Detroit Lion, who's out with COVID, by the way, today. But Matt Stafford
And get
might have been
big money, $30
might
million
have
a
been
year.
the number one overall pick, and I'm trying to remember where he out of Oklahoma. I can't. But anyways,
sure.
my point being, Stafford has never done anything with the Lions. He's got great lifetime statistics, but it's just hard to get a quarterback. If you got one slightly better than average, you're in good shape. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo.
I was about to mention Jimmy G.
Jimmy G may have played his last game with the 49ers.
Was he hurt?
He's hurt. He's got a high ankle sprain, but the Niners are not happy with his play. In
Well,
fact,
gentlemen, anyway, I will honor your little sentence there on the show board, and I will bid you good night.
thanks, Len.
Thanks, Len. Good to hear from you. Thanks
By
for
the way,
calling.
Leonard, I went to the golf course today at 2:15 to get 9 in.
Was there wasn't snow?
There was all kinds of snow out at 12:30. By 1:30, it was gone. So I went there with my buddy Joe,
And you played?
Mike was there, swim, but the course was closed for the day.
But the
Oh,
snow
yeah,
with the
we'll get it
snow.
open, though. If not tomorrow, it'll be open Friday, Saturday.
for sure.
It will be open, and I guarantee you, it's going to be overcrowded this weekend with the Chittenden County golfers.
Oh, it's going to be 65 degrees.
Yeah.
It's going to be
So
beautiful.
the snow was gone at 2:30, but Mike said
Yeah.
Mike was.
Thanks, Leonard.
It's going to be our last hurrah.
Yeah. Thanks, Len.
Good.
Len, we'll see ya.
Bye.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
calling.
Duke,
See ya.
I have to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Could you please tell me about Alex Cora? Did I
In fact,
look into the camera
Can I say in my notebook what I was going to ask you?
and did I give a Nighthawk guarantee?
I think the Nighthawk
did.
guarantee may
Hawk,
not be.
this is from my notes. Hawk, I'll give you a chance right now to retract your Nighthawk guarantee that Alex Cora, there was zero way he'd be Red Sox manager.
I think he's coming back.
The last thing I saw was he was one of 5 finalists with 4 no-names.
Duke.
And if that's the case, you think somebody else is going to get the job?
Hey, with Hinch getting rehired,
But that's part of the key.
So, Hawk,
Okay.
again, I'll give you one.
Okay.
I'll give you a chance right now on the air, live, to retract your crazy
According-
Nighthawk guarantee.
According to Alex Spire of the Boston Globe,
Spear, I think it's Spear. But whatever.
Spear, Red Sox chief baseball officer
Chaim Bloom.
Chaim Bloom
Chaim.
and general manager Brian O'Halloran, listen to this, had an in-person meeting with Alex Cora last Friday about the team's managerial vacancy. This is the important thing. If you're going to do this, they're serious. That meeting
Well,
took
especially given the competition.
Okay, that meeting took place at Cora's home in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
Cora didn't come up to Boston.
they drove
flew-
all the way down. They flew to Puerto Rico.
Right.
Hopefully it didn't drop.
Which signifies, and of course I was thinking you two, knowing that you would stab me in the back tonight, that Cora may be the front runner to reclaim the job he held from October 2017 to January 2020.
During which he only won a World Series.
Spire notes the Red Sox also held first-round interviews with Phillies player information coordinator Sam Fold, Pirates bench coach Don Kelly, Yankees bench coach Carlos Mendoza, and Marlins bench coach / offensive coordinator James Rosen.
Well, there's some marquee names.
Right. Cora is the only one of the 5 known candidates with experience as a major league manager. So, folks, I'm going to
Thank you,
look
Locke,
in the
for getting
camera.
into that issue before I even was going to
All right.
mention it.
The heat was taken off the Red Sox, as David mentioned. A.J. Hinch, the super disgraced manager of the Houston Astros, signed this past week with a horrible Detroit Tigers. Okay, so
But for the record, there's been, I consider that irrelevant. There's been talk about Cora for a long time. I don't think that's any factor at all,
Well,
really. I
Hinch
guess
was-
it doesn't hurt if they do hire him.
Hinch was the kingpin of that
No,
team.
sure.
So
I just
I'm
don't
going to
think
look
that's
in
a
the
big
camera,
factor.
and I'm going to tell the studio audience out there, studio audience, how about the TV audience, that on occasion, I give Nighthawk guarantees. And I'm telling you, folks, about 98.5% of the time, I'm right. I may be wrong on this particular thing. Not saying Alex Cora is going to get hired, but I guess some people do give people second chances.
Well,
That's
hey,
all. I give you credit for retracting your
the
crazy,
other thing
crazy
with
thing
Cora
you
and
said.
Hinch is they both did their prison time.
Yeah.
You know what? In this country, if you do the crime, you do the time. After you've done it, you can start all over again. And we're great at giving people second chances.
Now, the other piece of news, Jeff Passan of ESPN reports that players want to keep the universal designated hitter for 2021, but owners want them to agree to keep the expanded playoffs for the 2021 season in exchange. Parson adds that players don't find that to be a particularly equitable trade, in that some executives believe the universal DH will stick around even if the Players Association doesn't agree to the expanded playoffs. A decision on whether to keep the DH in the National League next season would seemingly have to be relatively early in the offseason, as teams need to plan accordingly.
Why don't the players want the DH? Or why would they care?
No,
It's another job. It's another job.
Right, and so if they have expanded playoffs, more teams get in the playoffs, more teams are putting more money in a team, that would be a no-brainer. Of course, the Players Association doesn't always.
Now, David, what was it this year? 14 teams in the playoffs? I think I read that they actually want to go up to 16 teams, 8 per league. There's 15 teams in the league, so you have a better than 50% chance. And I can tell you, they may be a sub 500 team or two that could make the playoffs. And it's not the team that you have in April, it's the team that you have in October.
Houston Astros were a sub 500 team,
Yeah, there you go.
but who knows? And a lot of it how are they even going to pick their teams? How are they even going to decide how much to have for payroll when they don't even know if they're going to have fans at the games?
The
Good
luxury
question.
tax is at 210 this year, but you're hitting the nail on the head. No fans.
I think what they should do if they wanted to make a deal is maybe they should, if they wanted the teams to be, maybe they should get rid of in exchange for one of these things is to get rid of the salary cap for this year.
You say that, but we started the show with Steve Cohen. Can you imagine what he would do?
The players would love it.
Yeah, of course they would. No, I guess I'm in a flux about a lot of these questions in every league, what they're going to do. I mentioned before Leonard called with DJ LeMahieu. The Red Sox, if you remember, they signed Pedraza from the Reds last year to take over second base this year. Did nothing. They didn't renew his contract. They have nobody at second base. What a great landing spot if, like Duke said, if the Red Sox have the money. The reason they got rid of Mookie was they couldn't afford to pay him.
But the Yanks, I can't believe he's leaving the Yanks. Why would he leave the Yanks?
I think what the Yankees will tell them is go find your best deal, and then when you're all done, we'll match.
We'll match.
Does he like playing for the Yankees?
I think he loves playing for the Yankees.
Yeah. I mean, when you consider his career was in Denver, okay? How many, like, who knows?
He's not going anywhere.
Right. Now,
He's-
people are starting 10 years later to know who this guy is.
The Yankees, LeMahieu's not their problem. They need
I guess he's
starting
not their
pitching.
problem.
They're too right-handed, way too right-handed. They're an out of balance
But, David,
team.
you're-
They got trouble with Sanchez. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think they should get rid of him, period.
Well, I
Period.
think that may happen. They got trouble with Gleyber Torres.
That's short.
Short, he's not a good shortstop. They-
I told you last week, and I thought Didi played well with the Yankees. I think Didi would look nice in the Yankee uniform.
But do you want to pay Didi 10, 12, $15 million? I don't know. Then you've got Judge. Judge has only played about a third of the games the last 3-4 years.
Is that's all?
Yeah,
Really?
he didn't play much this year.
Now, David, keep in mind the Yankees pitching staff. Tanaka's a free agent. They didn't renew the contract of Paxton or Happ. You're going to have to rebuild this whole pitching
Well,
staff.
Paxton and Happ, I think, are gone.
Right.
I don't think they got any interest. Tanaka, everybody thinks he's coming back. And they figure maybe a one-year
All
deal.
right. I'm not going to ask you for your starting five in April, but just give me your top four pitchers as of right now who for the Yankees.
Now, I will tell you, they did. There was a deal that Britton had with his contract that if the Yankees didn't take his option for the year after next, that he could have been a free agent.
And they did pick
And
that
they
option.
did pick him up.
Yeah.
So Britton was probably their best pitcher last year.
Yeah. And Duke,
But Hawk,
pitcher.
not to worry about the Red Sox second base. I just saw Dustin Pedroia is one of several players who were just taken off the, 60-day IL.
They're meeting with Dustin soon, very soon,
God, let's
for a
end- let's
sit-down
end-
to have a equitable discussion, if that's the right
They
terminology.
must be about ready to buy him out.
To
let him
have
go
a
away.
settlement. Now, one pitcher I like for the Red Sox this year, which is kind of an oxymoron there, Martin Perez, I thought was a decent-looking pitcher. His
And again-
ERA ended up 4.5, but he got beat up his last start of the season.
Yeah.
But I would love to get Perez on my team as the number 5 starter. Might be able-
Sorry, is he back? Is he back?
They let him go.
He's gone.
The team had an option at 6.5,
didn't
and
pick
they
it up.
didn't want to pay him. Now, I think he's worth probably at least 4, but
So you wouldn't mind him as a fifth?
yeah,
fifth starter?
this is a very queer year as far as
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, so many unknowns.
this free agency.
God, good luck. They have no clue how much
I mean,
how much money
getting
they have
back
to play with.
DJ. I mean, it's a law of supply and demand.
And of course, the
I don't think there's
backdrop-
going to be a lot of demand for players this year.
And the
it-
backdrop story is a new contract and stuff. We got another 13 months and stuff before the CBA expires.
Well,
And they're continuing talk about a not unlikely
the
work
owners
stoppage.
lose money every game they play without fans.
Yeah.
So they would much rather not play any games.
Now, Duke, a player, the Red Sox, my Nationals need help at first base. Zimmerman may be coming back. He opted out of the COVID last year, but he's 36, right-hand hitter. To save money, old friend Mitch Moreland, who I've always liked,
Yeah.
great glove. He hit .328 for the Red Sox.
good year.
He was the best player on the Red Sox until they traded him to the Padres. Went to San Diego, ended up hitting .203. Was
In not many games, right?
he played about half the games for the Pods. I would like to get him to be the left-hand hitter, Zimmerman right-hand hitter.
You don't have to pay him much.
And I'm going to tell you something. I forgot to put it, but I read this the other day. The Nationals won the World Series 1 year and 1 week ago. As we sit here tonight, there's only 10 players remaining on that 25 World
Really?
Series roster.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
No.
That's a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
Can I give you a quick hit from the Wall Street Journal? This just kind
Yeah.
of
Talk
sums
to
up
David. I got to.
baseball situation. This is Jared Diamond in the Wall Street Journal yesterday. Again, this is baseball preps for a long winter. Ownership and the players union need to figure out how to play in 2021 amid a frigid employment market. Where are we? Ownership and the Players Union need to figure out how to proceed with a second pandemic season in 2021, replaying a negotiation that sparked a bitter dispute this past summer. They must navigate what's shaping up to be a depressed employment market in light of massive economic uncertainty, which will further stoke the animosity and distrust that exists between the two sides. And they have to do all this against the backdrop of a collective bargaining agreement that expires in 13 months with the threat of a work stoppage looming. So they've got some issues.
Yeah, it's all the sports are all really up in the air.
Yeah.
But
And boy, it seems like aside from Vermont's relatively good situation, seems like, boy, I'm not sure. I don't think you can even technically. I don't think you can leave Vermont into another state, a bordering state, and come back without technically having to quarantine when you come back.
hey, and we had today another 27 cases in Chittenden County.
And I think UVM had a hit from a student who was out of state and picked up the virus and came back. And
Of course, the thing is, these young people aren't very sick. But we do have 4 people in the hospital in ICUs.
is that right?
So, but in Franklin County, we've been good. Only we haven't had a case in Franklin County for a while. So,
And again, number of deaths in Vermont, I think, still stuck at
58.
58. Hasn't been another death in Vermont in like about 3 months or so.
Yeah.
You wonder why Phil Scott, can we talk maybe state politics?
Can I ask you one question first?
Won a 40 percentage point victory.
Okay.
Yeah.
The House Speaker,
Msc Johnson, maybe.
the lovely Msc
she?
Johnson.
For the record, guess
Wait.
who talked about this last
I
night
did.
on my show?
You talked about it 8 minutes of 10.
I said
last
Msc
night.
Johnson. Don't think she's
so
any longer.
Morgan, her opponent, and I'll let Duke jump on this. She was up on her opponent. I can't remember his first name.
Mike Morgan.
Mike Morgan.
The nephew of State Rep Leland
She
Morgan.
had 2,287 votes. He had 2,285. 2 votes behind, and I never could find the result.
Oh, I never saw. The result is Msc Johnson, the House Speaker, D. South Hero, was the apparent loser by 18 votes. Which will, and if that holds, if that's the actual number, obviously we're talking a recount.
Yeah. And
she's the apparent loser to Representative Leland Morgan's nephew, Mike Morgan, Vice Chair of the Milton Select Board. And the other candidate in the race was the second Democrat, Andy Giulio of North Hero. All pretty close. This is a very competitive district, but yeah, Mitzi may be gone.
Yeah, and as a Repub, I thought she did a decent job down in Mount Sawyer.
She's hardly a wicked partisan.
Right. I thought she was, quote unquote, try to work
Yeah,
both
she's.
aisles.
I think that's.
But you
the
brought
case.
that up to
But
me
that's
last
a very
week,
competitive
and I said,
district.
"Dude, what are you talking about?"
I mean, she didn't win easily 2 years ago. I think she won by
Yeah.
maybe 100, 150 votes. But and for the record, just one other thing I don't mean to. And actually, one race I wasn't on top of. The one race I kind of screwed up last night, and I just talked to the now outgoing state rep, a very good person, Sharon Fagard, the Berkshire Democrat. She was running for re-election. Lisa Hango, who had been appointed right after Josh Aldrich finally gets elected and resigns. Lisa Hango, very solid. I figured she'd be the top vote getter. But Paul Martin, who was the one candidate in that House race I didn't interview, he was busy that day. He's a real estate guy. Anyway, Paul Martin, a very impressive showing, and he got the second seat up there. So Hango wins her first election. So Sharon Fagard, the only incumbent in the Franklin County delegation who lost. And now I give you the alternative universe of Franklin County. The delegation will now be going from 10 Republicans, 2 demos, and 1 independent, who I think leans Republican. So now it's going to be 11 Republicans, 1 Democrat. That's sole survivor Mike McCarthy in our district, in the city part of the town, and Barbara Murphy, the independent from Fairfax. Franklin County will represent about a quarter of the legislators in Vermont, Republican legislators, with all of 8% of the population.
David, I forgot to tell you last week. 2 weeks ago, we were talking about electric cars and self-driving car, our usual maybe quarterly update. And you mentioned about the Hummer. And you asked Duke and I to take a guess how much a Hummer goes, and I might have said 75. He might have said 85, and you said like 110 or something.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm watching, and I think 5 days later, the Giants might have been on Sunday Night Football 4 days later, and Al Michaels or Joe Buck, I can't remember what game it was, and he said, well, now a message from GMC, which, I have my remote ready to fast forward through commercials.
You actually watched the commercial?
And I said, well, that's rather strange. The announcer introducing, they did, listen to this, Duke. It was a 2-minute commercial, and the production value of that commercial would have made Steven Spielberg blush. Okay, I'm watching this in complete awe, thinking that this 2-minute commercial might have cost $3-4 million to produce. It was the slickest, classiest commercial.
You said two minutes?
Yes, it was
Really?
a 2-minute, and it was almost like a movie. It was unfreaking believable.
Have you seen that?
They had a 6-minute one that we got to see.
Really?
Okay, so I, thought of you, and I was about ready to go out and buy a Hummer the next day. They did such a.
We've had probably 15 or 20 reservations.
Are you? Wow.
Now, reservation
And-
doesn't mean much.
and again, they talked
spend
about-
$100 so that, but their first, the first batch were sold out in 10 minutes.
Is that right?
And
Where are they being made?
they're being made in Michigan.
Really?
And,
How many batteries, David?
well, there's a whole pile of them, but.
No, is it 4 batteries per Hummer?
Well, no, but they have, these electric cars now don't just have one battery, they have what they call a battery pack.
Huh.
And basically, it's the whole bottom of the car. So
Really?
they can put a lot of batteries in it's something big as a Hummer. And so it'll be interesting to see how
You surprised at all that there's so much excitement, whatever, about them, or not?
Well, no.
No?
Because it's really cool. The vehicle itself, if it were a gas job, would be sold out too.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's electric, in the old days, dealerships out in California and stuff would get vandalized. People would throw paint on them because they were gas hogs.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Imagine that in California.
So having this thing be electric and 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds.
Yeah.
That's Porsche.
Like I said, it was so strange after we talked maybe 20 minutes about that and other things, and here it was 4 days later. And have you seen the 2-minute commercial?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the only time I've seen it, but wow, that was something. So, okay, I'm going to talk golf here, and I'm going to try to get Champlain Country Club Golf Pro Mike Swim on the show next week, which makes natural sense. That will be on the
got
eve.
Masters.
On the eve of the Masters. Now,
You want me to take you don't like it?
I know I'm going to let you take over. Now, keep in mind before I read 2 paragraphs, I got measured by the doctors. I had a physical a couple weeks ago. And when I was young, you'd always hear when you get older, you shrink. And that doesn't happen. And I'd always put down 5'10". I was 5'10". I might have been 5'9.5", but it made my self-esteem feel a little bit better. So she measures me last week. 5'8.5".
Wow.
Wow, it did. I'm starting to get the Napoleon complex. And I have a driver I bought a few years ago, and I rarely use it. When you buy a driver and you go out in the driving range, you're hitting everything. Then you get to the golf course.
You can't hit it off the
Can't hit it. So I had to have Swim take about that much off my club. I just felt too far away from the ball. And of course, when you take some of your shaft off, you're losing your whip.
Right.
But is that weird to you that I feel distant from the ball?
Well, the drivers come in different lengths.
Yeah.
And there are guys that have shorter drivers, like Ricky Fowler. Cut his down.
Okay.
Now, the reason why you have a longer one is the longer you go, if you look at the physics of it, the more head speed you can get. And
so I'm going to jump over to our resident Masters expert here.
Hardly you're as much of an expert
2 paragraphs. Bryson DeChambeau isn't the only player headed to Augusta National next week, thinking about using different equipment to attack the course that is home to the Masters. Phil Mickelson said he's making changes too. Mickelson said yesterday on a podcast hosted by Callaway Golf that he plans to put a driver with a 47.5-inch shaft in play during the postponed Masters at Augusta National. The standard length is 44 to 45 inches range, and the rules of golf permits a shaft no longer than 48 inches. Mickelson has been using a 46-inch driver. So, with the success of Bryson DeChambeau, everything in sports, it's copycat. So,
Well, I think what happened with DeChambeau, what he did is he studied those long drives, those professional long drivers. And that's what those guys use is the 48-inch drivers. And he has decided that instead of hitting it straight, you just hit it far. And
Definitely what he decided.
he doesn't care. And that's like with those long driving contests, because forever and ever, the rule of thumb was you can't win a major if you aren't playing in the fairway.
yeah.
I think Trees though he can hit it far. I think Trees may be a little more of an issue with the Masters and some of the other places he's dealing with.
Well, but
if
the
he's
Masters
off target,
doesn't have
he may.
much rough.
No, not much rough, but they got plenty of tree. I'm just saying, if he hits it into the trees, no guarantee
But
that
it'll be
long.
interesting to see.
And I think greens. I think the greens at the Masters are the equalizing thing. Those greens can be
they're-
pretty tough.
Well, and the other thing is too, he's really a good putter.
Yeah.
He's got the rest of the game to go with it, and he's a hard worker.
I'd be surprised. I'm not looking for him to just destroy I hope he doesn't, but I don't think he's going to destroy the place.
I don't. And if they dry out the greens, make it tough, because they can make it so those guys.
I mean, the last thing they want is Bryson DeChambeau to win the thing at 20 or 25 under, like
Yeah.
most of the pros have been doing at almost all these other tournaments.
So, Duke, before you get going, one quick question.
And again, Masters a week from
Ratings,
tomorrow.
all sports ratings have been down.
Shoot, I had a Sports Illustrated that had all the stats.
Okay.
I meant to bring it.
So my question to you before you get going is, will ratings, pun intended, be at par? Get it, David?
yeah.
Will ratings be lower this year, or being at the time of the year where nobody has anything to do, will the ratings be higher?
Yeah, good
What's your
question. I
gut?
think it's such a weird year. I just think the weirdness of the year is throwing people off. I would guess they'd be fairly close. I wouldn't think they'd
I
be
would
higher.
think they'll be pretty good.
I think they'll be pretty good.
Because you've got people up here, who knows, we just got rid of our snow. But a week and a half from now, might be back being 30, you might really want to watch
I would think
it.
it'd be pretty good, but I'm not sure it's going to be a record. But it's funny, the Sports Illustrated had a graph of all major sports, and you might question whether this is a major sport. There was one, and again, I thought of you with basketball, was top ranked, down 50%. Guess what one of the kind of major sports was up? There was just one that was up in TV viewership.
Motorsports.
No.
I'll say
Again, you may not consider it a major sport.
ultimate fighting.
No, women. The WNBA was up for some reason.
Oh,
That's
Jeez.
not
Everybody else.
made. That's
I
not.
acknowledge that, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
That-
but isn't
not
that
even.
but isn't that a little strange?
Yeah,
The
well,
hockey wasn't better. I thought the
I
hockey was
think everything. I wish I had that. I think everything else was down.
because the hockey was good.
Everything else was down.
So, Duke, educate me on the 2020 Masters.
Yeah, nothing. I have no
All right.
nothing much
All
to
right,
say.
so I'll ask you
But
a
I'm just
question.
saying, my main comment is, I don't think you're going to see Bryson DeChambeau or anybody else, just totally beat up the course.
What should I expect weather-wise in middle of November versus the first week
I
of
think
April down there?
I thought, of course, there's been a ton of rain down there. I did see one headline saying that it might be some rain, but I didn't look in, and that's 8 days away. I can give you average temps, having logged many years down in an almost neighboring state. We're talking, November's a great month. I love November down south. I'd say average high, we're talking 70 or so, maybe even 70 to 75. Nighttime lows 50-ish or so. But again, we're still talking 8 days away.
Yeah.
But no, I've got no, Tiger, how about Tiger will not win it again this year? Of course, I would have said the same thing last year.
I got a feeling Phil won't win it either. Neither one of them have been playing very good.
I'll guess. I think the winning score will be low teens. How about I'll go with 13 under will be the winning score.
Now, the Houston Open is this week.
Yeah.
How many of the elite golfers are partaking.
I've seen, I can't tell
Actually, a
you.
lot of them do play Houston, and what Houston did is they trimmed the course to be as close to the Augusta.
Oh, is that right?
Interesting.
The same kind of rough, the same kind of this, the same kind of that, so that the guys would go and play it.
Oh,
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Huh. Yeah, sorry, I don't have any huge
And that's
highlights
not
about the
anything new. They've been
Masters.
doing that for a few years.
yeah. So, will you watch more, you guys, being in mid-November versus first week of April?
I mean, I'll watch, I'll watch every second of the Masters that I'm able to. And again, good old Sirius XM, I'll listen if I'm driving. I'll pay as much attention as I can
I
to the
would say-
Masters.
David, do you have a television in your office?
I don't have one in my office, but
Can you put one in your
We
office?
have one.
In the waiting room.
In the, well, no, I don't even need to go in the waiting room. We have one in the conference room.
Okay.
There you
that I
go.
put in.
So if I call you next week,
I could be-
they'll say, excuse me, Dave's currently in the conference room?
Of course, you don't even need it now. You can stream it on your computer.
That's true.
Hawk, what about you?
I definitely will, because when
Every
the
week, try to
Masters
watch
play,
every
I'm still
second?
into tax season.
Yeah.
And,
It's your last kind of fun thing.
but like, we're having unbelievable weather till next Tuesday, and then it turns back seasonal. And so I'm.
So will you try to
gonna
watch
a
every
ton.
second?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I won't watch every second. But
I
I'll-
usually do, but it's a little different in that it's not the springtime.
Yeah, you're not going to see.
You're
I
not
don't
gonna
think you're going
see
to see
the
azaleas.
Yeah.
It'll,
But falls are great. I mean, I know the Southland pretty well. I love the southern fall. To me, is an unheralded great season. I mean, it's not the spectacular color of up here, but it's lingering. The fleeting fall up here,
Dude.
it's lingering down there. Waves of decent color. It's a great season.
Duke, it just dawned on me that every year, 2 days after the election, of course, you do the sports show tonight. I should be picking you up at 3:30
Yeah, this is usually when I hit
this
the run
upcoming
for
morning.
my
'cause
DC
your
trip
DC
sometimes.
trip.
Yeah. Well,
So-
you asked me about that. Why would I go to? I can't come back to Vermont. The train's not coming back to Vermont. Why would it even
So
cross my mind?
Amtrak's not running?
Not running. I think I told you. It's Amtrak's running. The Amtrak Vermonter's not running north of, I think, New Haven, Connecticut. Much as I love bus rides, and I don't particularly want to get on a plane. Why would I even?
Yeah.
And then I come back to Vermont and have to quarantine. Why would I even think about it?
Will we see in our
And
life?
plus, DC is all boarded up. Hopefully, there wasn't any trouble yet there. The place is all boarded up anyway.
Will we see in our lifetime the Montrealer?
When you're the Vermonter going back to Montreal, I think so. They keep talking about it and stuff. The key is they've got to put in like a pre-clearance customs facility at Central Station in Montreal. And the last story I read was they were moving on that. Only they had kicked out like maybe Mr. Hortons, whatever. They had kicked out some little restaurant.
Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons, maybe, something. And those guys sued them, which delayed it. Yes, I think we will see it, although this hasn't helped.
So, David, I'm going to show you a little something. It's called a segue in the professional business. I just talked about Montreal. Well, speaking of Montreal, David,
City's
NHL.
in tough shape.
Okay, I know you like hockey, and I know you coach hockey for a number of years. The most ludicrous story I have ever heard. On Friday, Lisa MacLeod, Ontario's Minister of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Cultural Industries, announced that body checking and deliberate physical contact would not take place in Ontario sports amid the pandemic. Not just in the Ontario Hockey League, which is the number one junior hockey league in Canada. A lot of players are drafted out of the OHL. Not just hockey in general, but in all sports. We're very serious. We're in a very serious game right now. And the reality is we have to take those public health precautions.
Can I assume she's not counting National Hockey League games, or are they supposed to do no checking
OHL
too?
Commissioner David Brandt said the league will follow the results of scientific studies in crafting its return to play plan, but did not align his position fully with the province mandate. And I'm seeing a lot of stuff in Canadian sport.
I haven't
papers,
caught that story.
The most ludicrous. I mean, I screamed and moaned all fall about how ridiculous Vermont High School was playing girls football.
I was just about to mention, sounds like that.
David, you're a hulking 6'4", 230 defenseman in the OHL. Okay, finesse is not your kind of game. You're 17 years old. The pro scouts are up there. You can't hit anymore. Okay, that ruins your chances to getting drafted. Okay, this is stupid. Now
I can't imagine who's going to enforce it.
Okay.
Is she thinking the National Hockey League will do this too?
They're talking, that's a good question. Toronto and Ottawa are both in Ontario. And the other issue, of course, and they're talking right now anywhere from January 1st to the 15th to reopen. David, me, you, and the Duke, okay, we want to go out for Lebanese food? We can't cross the border to get our food. Okay, we can't get up there. Okay, now, crossing back and forth between borders, playing hockey, there's serious talk right now of an all-Canadian division. That way, the Winnipegs, the Edmontons, Calgarys, Vancouvers, Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, they're just playing each other during this limited schedule this year.
Kind of makes sense, especially if you can't cross the border.
So I would guess, David, if they finish their season at normal time in early April, at that point, I would assume the border will be open by then. And I think Trudeau would be more favorable to opening it up due to the impending change of administration in this country. So
who knows?
Boy, don't hold your breath on the border opening anytime soon.
So Duke, I just want to tell you about my vacation plans, okay? He shakes his head when I'm telling, okay, I told you I was heading to Italy.
You've officially conceded defeat on that,
I called the actual cruise line, Costa, yesterday or 2 days ago, and they said, sir, I just want to tell you, we haven't announced it, but we will announce it later this week. That cruise will be canceled. And I said,
they told you that.
Yeah, right. And I said, that's fine, because they won't let me.
That's almost a moot point. You can't get there anyway.
Right, I can't get there anyway.
Who cares whether the cruise ship.
And when I fly into Montreal, getting back from Guadalupe, Duke can't pick me up at Pierre Trudeau Airport. So that's done. So I tell my wife, and she kind of knew that wasn't going to happen. I said, don't worry, the Nighthawk will take good care of you.
Getting your money back from that? Or?
Yeah, I'll take good care of you. So there was an MSC Cruise, a Mediterranean Sea Corporation, out of Miami, December 6th. I called them that early afternoon. Yeah, we're cruising.
Are they cruising right now?
Later that afternoon, it was announced that all cruise ships coming out of the U.S. will not be cruising, even though they had the order lifted. But the CDC
for the rest of the
is
year.
making all these cruise lines to do practice runs. Now, Europe has been cruising for a few months now. CDC has nothing to do with them. They didn't have to go through those guidelines. So that's it. So now I just could be staying home cuddling with my wife in December.
So again, the Florida cruise is
it's
not
gone.
happening.
So I'm looking for alternatives. Maybe go to a hotel in Florida.
Why don't you do like out of state?
Okay.
Going out of state.
Listen, I thought, David, even going to Hawaii, and I looked at that. Like, have you ever been to Honolulu, Waikiki Beach?
I've never been to Hawaii.
Okay, well, let me tell you about Waikiki Beach. I went there maybe 10 years ago.
Sounds like it's not getting.
See this table size right here? If you know me, I don't get up before noontime. If I went on the beach, I might be lucky enough to find that much of the beach. And I'm also thinking they're going to make you wear a mask, even in Waikiki Beach.
Well, if you, I bet you it's not packed like that now.
You're probably right.
Right.
So I don't know. So I'm just sucking it up like everything else this year. You keep getting kicked and it hurts at first, but after a while, the pain just isn't there anymore.
Speaking of Hawaii, so you've been to Hawaii? I love the original Hawaii 5-0. Love the show. I'd love to be seeing reruns of that. But Jack Lord, they filmed, of course, in Hawaii.
Right.
They love the publicity. And there's a statue somewhere of Jack Lord. Have you seen that statue?
No, we were in Honolulu.
Probably in Honolulu
because
somewhere.
we went to Maui. Maui's.
I love the show. I would kill for the original.
Maui is really it's undeveloped.
And of course, Kapalua obviously comes
Kapalua was
instantly to
gorgeous, yeah.
mind. Not only a couple months away. huh?
Duke, the theme song from Hawaii Five-O,
Great.
very popular.
Love it.
What was the group?
The Ventures?
That's it. Good job, Duke.
Yeah, I know a few
Now,
things.
they also said Jack Lord might have been the hardest guy in Hollywood to work with.
Oh, is that right?
True perfectionist, and just
Did Dano have a tough time with him?
Was it Danny Williams?
He was the son of a famous actress, I think.
I can tell you.
His name?
It was
MacArthur?
the first lady.
Yeah, James MacArthur.
James
Right.
MacArthur,
Yeah.
the first lady of the theater, and Helen Hayes. Is that?
Maybe. I
You're,
can't. I'm not
that's
sure.
not one of my areas of expertise.
Do you have your
Not
tweet
sure.
machine?
No, I love
But his mother was a
Yeah.
famous actress.
Yeah.
But a great show. That show and the original Untouchables, Elliot Ness, I would kill to see reruns
Well, I
of that
watched,
show.
just speaking of which,
Now, Sean Connery comes to mind.
I
too.
watched the movie with Kevin Costner last night because now that
Was that Untouchables.
Sean Connery has died, I'll probably go through a Sean Connery tribute week and watch all his movies.
From Russia with Love is still will always be in my top 10.
Oh, Thunderball was awfully
David,
good, and
At the
No.
Doctor No,
good.
those are
Dr.
just,
No was number one. From Russia with Love was the second.
Yeah.
at the Sunset
James Bond.
Drive-In this weekend, your cousin is showing on screen number one.
Oh, wow.
Two James Bond, Sean Connery, Thunderball.
Is that right?
Being one.
Is there
Yeah.
at
You
the
know,
drive-in? Really?
he was quite a guy, and he really didn't like the James Bond thing at first, and he became quite a varied actor. You know, what I thought he was great in was Hunt for Red October.
Yes.
And
Yep.
the man who my kid was talking about.
The Man Who Would Be King.
The Man Who Would Be
I've never
King.
seen that. I'm gonna, so that'll give me something to do the next few weeks instead of watching Fox.
But the Bond
News.
thing,
I'll,
right? He definitely OD'd on that, but then of course he did come back for Never Say Never again. He did come back for
Yeah.
one more, right?
and if you remember, Never Say Never, I think, and Moonraker or something both came out about the same time.
Huh.
And there was a fight over who had the rights, and they couldn't play the Bond music
Oh, really?
in Never Say Never. If you
Okay.
Because that was the one. Because one of his 7 Bond flicks wasn't. Is it EOD Productions or something?
right,
Or
well,
was
you
the
got
one
that
wasn't?
Broccoli and whoever.
Mr.
Albert Broccoli.
Well,
Albert
now
Broccoli.
his daughter, I think, is
Oh yeah.
has the
I
franchise.
love the theme. I love the theme music.
Yeah.
Though I will tell you, I like Daniel Craig's Bond almost as much as Sean Connery.
Daniel's good.
Daniel Craig actually is
He's
an excellent actor.
Now they're going to lose me if they make James Bond into a woman.
Oh,
And
is there talk about that?
Oh yeah, there's talk that after this one, the next James
really?
Bond is going to be a
So
woman.
Daniel Craig's last James Bond was all set to come out in March, and
They keep holding it back.
the pandemic arrived, and they just said, they probably spent $150 million to make that movie, and they're holding it
Well,
back.
speaking of movies, I think the only so has the drive-in been open for a while?
Sunset Drive-In's open every single night.
it really?
Yeah, I may go down there.
Yeah, boy,
this
that
weekend.
sounds tempting. The only indoor I think is in by the Essex outlet malls, because whoever the Roxy is at,
that was a
whoever controls all
Right.
the. I keep going by the
Merrill.
Roxy every couple of weeks and hoping to see something because there's some great flicks I like at the Roxy. Not to mention our friend Mary at the Weldon, but nothing on the door, just closed until further notice. Sounds like they're not even close.
Yeah.
well. Movie business is
Pretty tough. Pretty tough business.
Well, they don't really make that many good movies.
Well, David,
I wouldn't
picking up on that
I wouldn't disagree, and
statement.
I'm not one to watch your basic Hollywood fare anyway myself.
Yeah.
Borat 2 came out a couple weeks
I
ago.
did watch that.
Now,
my kid
I have Prime Video, so I was able to watch it for free. Okay, it doesn't make difference what.
So the politics don't even-
That was what I'm trying
Well,
to say.
he's got
Didn't
a
ma-
little politics
right.
in there, but he's
But-
got enough of his other stupidity.
Yeah, I just
But
thought, like, the first Borat was okay. This, to me, was a money grab. It was
right?
horrible.
Oh, it's
Horrible.
horror. 'Cause
Now,
my
you may
kid, I'm
have
sure, will
different
love it.
feelings.
Well,
on
I
it.
thought the first Borat, I never laughed so much in all my
Yeah.
life. The
I don't think I saw
it's
it.
a stupid movie,
Right.
and the basic premise is he's from Kazakhstan and he's interviewing people down south, and he's mostly making fun of born again Christians and Southerners, and that's it. That's his whole shtick.
Yeah.
But I thought this time it was worse because it was all about Trump. And
I was going to say, like, I can imagine how.
But that had nothing to do with me. I'll laugh on anything.
No,
but
I did enjoy.
It looked like he put that movie together in about 2 weeks. It just was not a
I
good
did
movie.
enjoy some of the stuff about his daughter. It was in it, and I did enjoy some of the things of what women were supposed to do and how she lived in a cage, and some of that was okay. But they really the big thing with that movie is they really set up Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah, I heard Rudy didn't.
And Rudy wasn't too happy, and
I'm sure.
they made it out like Rudy invited her into the bedroom, and he was taking his shirt off to take the microphone out. And they made it out like he was trying to do something with her.
Which begs the question, why would Rudy in his right mind do anything with Sacha
Because she
Baron
said
Cohen?
They didn't say she was from Kazakhstan. When they set up Rudy, they told him that she was from the Southern Christian.
Right, but my question is, did he know who he's...
No, that's the whole...
That makes me feel better.
There's no clue that it's the Sacha Baron Cohen.
And the guy, Sacha Baron, was all made up. You couldn't tell what he was. So I don't think it was as good, but it signifies to me the whole trouble with Hollywood. There was a time when Mary, of course, way before I got married, and I was still single and I had my house on Smith Street, that I would go to the movies every time the movie would change.
Really?
Wow.
Because I had nothing to do and Mary would let me in.
You went by yourself?
Sometimes I go by myself, or maybe my sister.
Right. I used to go to the movies a lot by myself. A lot of people, A, won't go to the movies by themselves, or B, won't go out to dinner by themselves.
Sure.
Well, I had nothing better to do.
Right.
No, same here.
And they would get a movie, and of course I went a lot of times with dates too, but anyways, I like going to the movies, and I love a good movie.
Yeah.
And this last few years, they're too preachy for me, and they can't entertain, and they forgot that a good movie needs to have a good story. Like now a movie that I enjoyed, it was a little long, but the one with Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci,
The Irishman. 3.5 hours long.
All right.
But I did enjoy watching it, and I thought it was well done. He could have done that movie in about 2.5 hours.
That was a Marty Scorsese movie, and it was done through Netflix, and he was appreciative of Netflix, where they did not, like the studios, give him a time restraint. So he said, I was able to tell my full story with this.
Now, I'll tell you what I didn't like about the movie, and what I thought they should have done, is I don't care what you do with computer-generated graphics. You can't make 78-year-old Robert De Niro and 78-year-old Joe Pesci look like they're 20 years old.
And they tried
doing that instead of what they should have
done. Instead of having younger actors playing.
Should have hired younger actors.
Oh, really?
I thought that took away from the movie. And I thought the story was a little slow, but it was a good story.
Yeah.
And I like a good story.
And my recollection, was that the story about what happened to Jimmy Hoffa?
Yes.
Yeah. Who killed Jimmy Hoffa?
According to this guy, this guy, he killed him, and then they put him in a crematorium at a nursing home.
But I thought he was in the old Giants stadium.
Well, that was the rumor that he was in the end zone in the Meadowlands of New Jersey.
No,
he's in Jersey or Nevada, right?
No, it was in Michigan.
That's right. They went to a restaurant.
They set up a meeting with him in a restaurant, and they killed him.
Yeah. Okay.
And then they supposedly brought him to a nursing home and cooked him.
Yep.
And that's what happened to Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah. So back to hockey quickly.
We could do a movie show,
I know we could.
Siskel and Ebert aren't on.
So there will be no All-Star game this year. There'll be
I'm sorry, we're talking hockey now?
yeah, no outdoor game this year.
No outdoor. Boy, wouldn't this seem to be the perfect year for an
Yeah.
outdoor game?
Yep. And they were actually
Maybe make it all outdoors.
They were actually talking about doing a hockey game on a lake in Alberta. Okay?
Huh, really?
Obviously, it gets cold enough.
Probably cold
but
enough.
The Department of Interior, whatever,
Yeah.
didn't want construction in the national park to occur. So that kind of went.
No outdoor game.
Yeah.
Huh?
So, like UVM hockey starts later this month.
No fans.
No fans. Basketball starts later this month. Duke, I sent you the schedule on that.
In fact, I've got a free press
No
right here.
fans. It's going to be a very lonely winter this year. NBA. Now, that was an interesting story. Adam Silver, the commissioner, wants to start 2022.
Dookie.
I mentioned to you guys last week that the king of the Marxist Party, King LeBron James, wants to start January 18th, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Well, word has it, if they delay those 3 weeks, that'll be $1 billion in revenue that the NBA would lose, so there's no way that they're going to do that. So I think you'll hear by Friday that, in fact, NBA will start the 22nd.
Now, they aren't going to have fans either, or very limited.
No fans at this time.
Probably not at the
and
start
they're going to cut
anyway,
10
huh?
games down to 72. NBA draft is 2 weeks from tonight, and a week after that, free agency will start up. So...
Boy, hard for me to get into some of this stuff right
Oh,
now.
I can't. And they better not be putting stuff out in the court and having the players wear slogans.
Well, the NBA took a huge financial bath, and as I mention every week on the show, the 6 lowest rated NBA games of all time were the 6 final games. People, I mean, that was like one of the most popular things on the internet, were people sick and tired of all this BLM Marxist crap and all that, and they refused to watch it, and their ratings were down 70%, and they let their thumb do the talking. They just turned the channel on the remote to something else, so they're very cognizant.
Yeah, you would have thought that would have caught somebody's attention.
Yeah, of that. So
I will say I think the football's been pretty good this year.
The quality of football?
It's entertaining.
Well, you do see Black Lives Matters on the back of the helmets and racism.
A little bit of that.
Right.
But I mean, I'm just talking of all the stuff to watch. Most of the football games are pretty good.
Although I thought I got into postseason baseball a bit. I didn't think that was
I thought
too bad.
hockey was, to me, the
fabulous.
the clearest sport. But, football, well, let me tell you about football, get you guys excited. Duke, you're a Patriots fan. Hang on to your seat. Next Monday night, don't make any plans, because you are the Monday night football game against the winless New York Jets. Pats are favored by 7. Now, who in their right mind at literally midseason would think, you know what? I think the Jets are going to be a pretty good team.
Well, of course,
so we're going to schedule them.
You asked the same thing about why would they ever schedule the Giants for a Monday night game?
Right, the Giants,
At least they played
absolutely.
a pretty good team.
And I always tell you, dude, you schedule the Giants the first week of the season because they're tied for first.
And usually you have them play the Cowboys or the Eagles.
Everybody's 0-0. But and like I've told you, I've watched a lot of football this year, not because I want to. It's simply there's no other sports playing. And the game tomorrow night, on paper, before the season, look good. Green Bay and San Francisco.
Boy, that game sounds shaky right now. Isn't
well,
Green
Jimmy
Bay?
G is gone. I guess Nick Mullen will probably be the quarterback.
But I think there's some more issues. Wasn't I hearing today that some of the Green Bay folks, I think COVID-19 is coming into play.
Could be.
Heard Green Bay's down to like their 4th-string running back or something.
Hey, Duke, let me throw this out. We had a phone call right in the midst of this conversation. We were talking about Jimmy G, and he might have played his last game with the 49ers.
Really?
Let's think. Bring him back to Boston.
Yeah, that crossed my mind.
And who worked with him every single day was Josh McDaniel. Okay, that was Belichick's
guy. It was the heir apparent to TB.
And that was their pet project, get Garoppolo ready. And McDaniel worked with overtime every single day. And of course, they traded him for a second-round pick. Patriot fans went nuts.
Yeah.
And of course, that year, who won the MVP? Tom Brady. So I tell Patriot
what are they gonna
fans,
do for
what are you
all
going to do? Trade the MVP for an unknown player?
And guess what? Had they kept Jimmy G, had they signed him, they would have been paying Jimmy G $20 million to sit on the bench. I don't think
Yeah,
they're going to do
exactly.
that.
Exactly.
Especially with Belichick, including me giving him some grief. Boy, easy to think that Belichick might say, hey, let's get Jimmy G. I'll show people why I like this guy.
Yeah.
I can think of crazier scenarios.
Yeah. So,
And Huck, did you come across, this is from the Free Press, UVM tapped to host Frozen 4,
Yes.
in St. Louis. They always hook a college to a Final Four site regardless of where it is.
Chris Zimmerman, former forward of UVM, is a top executive for the St. Louis Blues.
And in fact, how about owner of the St. Louis Blues?
Zimmerman doesn't own.
I'm sorry, my mistake, president, you're right, president.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point, that'd be a key UVM
Yeah.
connection. Sorry.
I don't know. I mean,
You want me to read it?
go ahead.
This is Austin Danforth in the Free Press. I'll start it anyway.
I think I might have read that.
1,000 miles apart, the curved roof of Gutterson Fieldhouse in Burlington and the iconic, boy, the word iconic gets a lot of use these days, and the iconic Gateway Arch in St. Louis have seemingly little in common beyond basic architectural principles. That'll change for a week in the spring of 2025. The NCAA announced, I guess last Wednesday, that the University of Vermont will serve as the host institution for that year's Division I Men's Hockey Frozen Four weekend at the Enterprise Center, home of the NHL St. Louis Blues. And no, that's not a typo. UVM is partnering with the Blues and the St. Louis Sports Commission to bring the national semis and title game back to the Missouri City for the first time since 2007. The news came as part of a larger announcement by NCAA detailing sites for dozens of championships through 2026. Just a little more. Each site for an NCAA championship event is paired with a host institution, usually one in the same geographic area when the event isn't held at a campus venue. A recent example of that would be Vermont assuming those duties of the 2019 skiing championships in Stowe, which of course you remember, I'm sure. So how did UVM wind up here with St. Louis? That would be Chris Zimmerman, a former UVM hockey player and current president of the Blues.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we got a few years to wait for that.
I've been in the Arch.
Is that, boy? I've never been to St. Louis.
That seems to be a nice city.
It's the nice parts are really nice,
Yeah.
and the bad parts
Yeah.
are really bad.
And of course, outside of town, Ferguson had a few issues a couple of years
you
ago.
don't want to be lost in East St. Louis.
Yeah.
Of course, that's in Illinois. But St. Louis has a lot of cool stuff, and I went to the Budweiser Brewery. See, my wife grew
I was
up
going
in
to
St.
say,
Louis.
is Carrie a St. Louis
Carrie
girl?
was born in St. Louis, went
Wow,
to school
okay.
there. And
Where'd you go to college?
University of Missouri and journalism school.
Mizzou.
Journalism school.
Wow.
All right, so
Great school,
explain
I
to
think.
me how one David Handy ended up with Miss Carrie.
Well, it's kind of a long story.
Well,
I might have even talked to her first as a local reporter.
I bet you did.
I think I was one of the first people
David,
who
I have
she
7
contacted.
minutes.
Well, I don't think it'll take 7, but
Okay.
As a PR person, press person for NMC, correct?
yes, what happened
I got a
was
call from Carrie. Hey,
she
Richard,
had-
you want to go out to lunch?
She had a brother and a sister. She had a sister living in New Hampshire and a brother living in Boston. They saw an ad in the newspaper, Boston Globe, for Northwestern Medical Center looking for a public relations
No,
person.
really?
She was doing public relations for a hospital in Missouri, or in Illinois, in Breeze, Illinois. She came up and interviewed for the job and got the job.
Wow.
And so, fast forward a little bit. So she's up here, and she, of course, she was married then too.
Oh, I
is
didn't
that
know.
when she was
Yeah.
married?
Did not know that.
And her husband was here or not?
Well, he was here, wasn't here, and so, anyways, she was friends. Remember Vaughn? He used to work for us.
Von Gross?
Vaughn Vester.
Fester.
Yeah, sure.
She
I
was a
remember.
blonde-haired girl,
Right.
1 year older than me.
Yeah.
1 year younger than you.
Yeah, I remember
Vaughn was friends with Carrie, and because Carrie was friends with her sister-in-law. Well, anyway, at that time I had no steady girl, I didn't have any.
Just all kinds of dates all the time.
I
but
was
no
just
SETI.
playing the field, of course. And I think I was 28. And Vaughn says, I got a girl to set you up with. And I said, well, that's fine. And she goes, well, there's only one thing. They're getting divorced. And I said, well, I don't really want to get in the middle of that. And she goes, oh, no, it's almost done. And so anyway, I said, well, when it's over, you let me know. So 3-4 months later, we went on a first date on August 8th.
What was your first date?
Went to Rusty Scuffer.
Oh, I still miss the Scuffer.
And
that was a big blow to me when the Scuffer
And then I
went
took
in.
her over to the Chicken Bone.
Wow.
And then I'm sure we ended up at Minerva's. And so anyway.
Did you sweep her off her feet? Did she?
I worked hard.
Did she fall in love with you right away, David?
I don't think so. And so anyway, to finish the story, she, by then, the hospital, to show you how things had changed so much, the hospital back then had just merged.
Mm-hmm.
And as a matter of fact, that's how come we have the Collins Pearly Sports Center, because Steve Collins was going to leave his money to the St. Albans Hospital, but when they merged the hospitals, he says, I'm not giving money to Curbs.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
And there was a lot of animosity still then between the Curbs and the St. Albans folks.
Hey, you're talking about someone who was doing the talk show, or at least listening to it. Talk about blood just dripping down the microphone every day.
It was awful. So anyway, the hospital wasn't doing very well. And there were Fridays where she wasn't sure if her paycheck was going to be good.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's how bad the hospital business was.
Wow.
So she had gotten herself interviews for jobs down in Boston. And because we started going out in August.
What year is this?
1984.
Okay.
So she'd gotten herself.
When I met my former wife, in fact.
She had gone to. She got herself a job with a hospital in Dorchester.
Really?
And she was going to live on the Back Bay.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, her place wasn't too far from the Bull and Finch, which was where they did Cheers.
Yep.
Huh.
So anyway, we kind of thought it was all over, or my buddies did. But
were you in love at that point?
Oh, I was in love. I still am. Never got out of love.
Okay.
Good for you.
So anyway, I moved her down there with Carl LaRoe. Carl LaRoe had
a moving company.
My man Carl the mover LaRoe. My man Carl.
And back then, Carl wasn't driving $150,000 tractor trailers. It was a used Ryder rental truck that we'd gotten for him. And
I was probably going out with Paula Gamache at the time.
Yes. So Carl moved her down, and believe it or not, we were seeing each other every weekend. Because you remember you could fly to like Air New England or something to Boston.
Really?
For like $60 or whatever it was.
Wow.
And so anyways, she had her car broke down in the Callahan Tunnel.
Really?
On a Friday night,
Wow.
and she said, "That's it. I've had it. I'm going back to St. Albans." So that's when we got engaged.
The rest is history.
And the rest is history.
So at that point, she worked at the Catholic diocese for a lot of years?
No. She
got about 2 minutes left, guys.
All right. She only worked at the diocese maybe 2 or 3 years.
Okay. So where'd you go after the hospital? Raise the kids?
Yeah, she's been a
super
stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she did a pretty good job. My kids turned out okay.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys did a great job.
Except for one, Joe, who made that presidential prediction that doesn't.
It's not over yet.
Okay,
not over
right.
yet.
But I'm glad that.
Talking about first dates, Lauren, the former wife, great lady, still over in Essex, New York. My first date with Lauren was taking her to a meeting on a big transmission line in Highgate.
Wow.
That was my exciting first date with
That
my
was
fine former
1984?
wife. I think it was 84.
And my first marriage was 1984. So I guess we have something in common. So
Well, guys that age, it was about time to get married.
28 is kind of old for. How old were you when you actually got married?
29.
I was way older. Just like I
how
still
old were
am.
you your
Well,
first marriage?
about 30, 36 or so.
Well, guys don't need to get married that early. There's no biological clock.
Yeah, it's true.
But, and of course today, they don't, nobody seems to get married till they're about 30 anyway.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's it. We got through the show. Again, like I said at the beginning, you've got football and very little at this point, but hopefully baseball meetings will pick up and hockey and basketball
And
start.
the Masters will be
Masters.
fun to
Masters
do.
will be good. We'll
Right,
have
so-
something to talk about.
So that's it. We are done for the night. For Super Dave, the Duke, our engineer, Richie Cunningham, I am the Nighthawk, and David, I'm not going to screw this up. Remember, a library card is free, but knowledge is priceless. See you folks next week.
Thank you.
Yeah.